into the deep dive. Today, we're zeroing in on a really powerful evolution happening in business. It's about human resources.
Yeah, HR. How it's shifting from, sometimes just being seen as admin.
Right, the necessary paperwork function.
Exactly. To becoming a real engine for creating value. A driver, actually.
Okay, so that's our focus. We've been looking at some pretty insightful stuff from a document titled From HR to Value Creation, Are You Asking the Right Questions?
Mm-hmm. And it really gets to the heart of how HR can sort of break out of just managing internal processes.
And start directly contributing to business success and stakeholder value.
That's it. So our mission today is, to really nail down how HR actually does that, how it creates value for all its stakeholders.
And there's a central question from the source material.
There is. It's how does HR create value for our stakeholders? Simple question, maybe.
But with big implications, I bet. It sounds like it reframes HR's whole purpose, not just managing internally, but actively driving external success.
That's the seismic shift it talks about. It changes how HR is seen, how it's valued.
So what's behind that shift? You mentioned a change in thinking.
Yeah, it's this idea of inside out versus outside in. Traditionally, HR often thought inside out. What are our capabilities? What programs can we offer?
Focusing inward first makes sense, traditionally.
But this document argues for the opposite, an outside-in approach.
Okay, outside in. So flip the script. Start with what? The needs of people outside HR.
Exactly. Customers, investors, the community. What do they need? And then figure out how our talent, our organization can deliver on that.
Right. Work backwards from the external needs. But hang on, don't you still need the internal part? Like the right people, the right culture? How do you balance that?
Oh, absolutely. It's not ignoring the internal. It's about prioritizing. The outside-in view ensures that all the internal stuff, the talent, the culture, the processes, is actually aligned with delivering value externally.
Ah, I see. So the external needs guide the internal efforts. Makes sense.
Yeah, it stops HR being this isolated function. It connects it directly to the success of the whole organization. And that leads us to 4 fundamental questions the document says the best HR leaders constantly ask.
4 big questions. Okay, let's get into them. What's the first one?
The first one is, who are our stakeholders and what do they value?
Seems straightforward, maybe. But I guess the key is how you answer it.
Precisely. It's not about measuring HR by just, how busy it is, how many things it does.
Right, not activity for activity's sake.
No. It's about how effectively HR serves all these different stakeholders.
Yeah.
And all is the key word there.
Meaning, we need to think beyond just employees and managers.
Way beyond. We have to think about, say, customers. How does the company culture, which HR heavily influences, impact the customer experience?
Okay, that's a direct link. Good culture, good service, happy customers. Makes sense.
Then you've got investors. What do they value? Well, things like a strong leadership pipeline signal future stability and growth, right?
And HR builds that pipeline. Yeah, okay. Who else?
Communities. Are we upholding trust? Ethical standards. What about ESG, environmental, social, governance? That's huge now.
Right. The S in ESG often falls heavily on HR practices, doesn't it? Fair labor, diversity, inclusion.
Exactly. And regulators, too. Building transparent, compliant systems. HR is core to that.
So thinking about all these groups, it really changes the perspective on HR. It's not just a cost center then.
No, the document calls it a capability engine. It builds the organization's ability to meet all these diverse stakeholder needs.
Capability engine. I like that. Is there an example of this?
Yeah, there's a great case in point, a logistics company. They actually mapped customer complaints.
Really? Customer complaints back to HR.
Back to HR practices, yeah. Things like hiring, training. And by fixing the root causes in HR, they saw a 27% drop in customer churn.
27%.
And an 18% jump in Net Promoter Score, all within a year. That's HR driving tangible business results by focusing on an external stakeholder, the customer.
That's incredibly powerful. Okay, so that's stakeholders. What's the second big question?
Question 2 is, what is our impact and how do we measure it?
The measurement piece, moving beyond feelings to facts.
Precisely. It's about being evidence-based, asking tough questions like, are our metrics actually linking HR work to things like customer loyalty or innovation?
So not just tracking how many people we train, but whether that training actually led to something the business cares about.
Exactly. Are we talking about ROI in a way the C-suite understands? Does our dashboard show real contribution or just activity?
That's a critical difference. The document calls it HR for HR metrics versus HR for business metrics, right?
Yeah, one is potentially just vanity, looks good internally maybe. The other shows real value.
So what does an HR for business metric look like in practice?
Well, the example given is a financial services firm. They connected their leadership development programs directly to risk mitigation performance.
Okay, interesting link.
And by doing that, by strengthening leadership, they achieved a 43% reduction in regulatory breaches over 3 years.
43%. That's a massive impact on a huge risk area. You can definitely take that to the C-suite.
Absolutely. It shows HR isn't just support. It's a strategic lever for critical outcomes.
Okay, that makes total sense. Let's move to number 3.
Question 3. How do we turn individual talent into organizational capability?
So this is about more than just hiring superstars.
Much more. The document argues we sometimes over-focus on finding those individual A players. Important, yes, but.
But sustainable success comes from the whole system.
Exactly. The systemic capability, things like a shared mindset, good collaboration, the organization's ability to adapt. Think of a sports team. It's the system and teamwork, not just one star player.
So it's shifting from the war for talent
to the victory through organization. That's the phrase used. Build a culture that replicates excellence everywhere. Don't just rely on heroes.
and invest in things like agility, resilience, digital skills for everyone.
Yes, those kinds of organizational capabilities, not just individual qualifications on a resume. HR's role becomes building that system for everyone.
Designing the environment for success, not just filling slots. Is there an example here too?
Yep, a retail chain. They changed their training approach, moved away from just role-based stuff
Okay.
to setting up enterprise-wide problem-solving labs, got people working together across functions,
Building that collaborative muscle.
and the results, a 15% rise in sales per employee,
Yeah.
and they cut their innovation cycle time in half.
Wow. Again, tangible results from focusing on the organizational capability, not just individuals. Okay, powerful stuff. What's the fourth and final question?
The last one is, are we anticipating the future, not just reacting to the present?
So HR needs to be futurists.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
The best HR leaders are reading the signals, scanning the horizon, preparing the organization for what's next, often before it's obvious.
Like what kind of things? Thinking about AI and automation and workforce planning.
Absolutely. Or reskilling people before the business model totally changes. Shaping leadership pipelines for where the business will be, not where it was.
Designing the culture proactively, not just letting it happen.
Exactly. It's the difference between reactive HR, always putting out fires,
Yeah.
solving yesterday's problems, and proactive HR, which is shaping tomorrow's success.
Got it. Is there an example of that forward-thinking approach?
There is a healthcare system. They analyzed demographic trends way ahead of time.
And saw what?
They saw a big nursing shortage coming down the line, years away. So they partnered with community colleges 5 years in advance to build that talent pipeline.
5 years. That's foresight.
And it saved them an estimated $40 million in staffing costs later on. That's the power of anticipation.
40 million. Okay, these 4 questions really do paint a picture of a much more strategic HR. So to do all this, HR leaders themselves need different skills, right?
Absolutely. The required competencies are shifting. The document contrasts the old with the new mindset.
Okay, walk me through that.
Well, instead of just being the policy expert,
You become a capability architect,
There.
designing those organizational strengths we talked about.
right, and instead of just being a service provider to the business.
You're a strategic advisor, actually helping shape strategy.
Exactly. And moving from purely being a people advocate.
To being a stakeholder value creator,
Yeah.
thinking about customers, investors, everyone,
The culture steward role expands too.
into experience designer, crafting that whole employee journey.
Well,
Interesting.
Yeah, and training coordinator becomes learning enabler, fostering continuous learning, and the administrator.
Becomes a change navigator,
Yeah.
guiding the organization through disruption.
You got it. And the key thing is the blend of skills needed now: analytics and empathy, strategy and understanding people.
Comfortable with balance sheets and employee sentiment, that's quite a mix.
It is. You need both sides of the brain working.
So if an HR team wants to make this leap, become this value-creating function, how do they actually do it? Is there a roadmap?
Yes, the document lays out a kind of blueprint, 5 key steps.
Okay, step 1.
Build an outside-in strategy map. Really understand those stakeholder needs we discussed. Align your HR metrics directly to business KPIs. Let the external context guide everything.
Always start outside. Got it. Step 2.
Design for capabilities, not just competence. Invest in the systems and culture that create agility, collaboration, innovation,
Yeah.
not just developing individual stars.
Build the organizational muscle, like we said. Okay, 3.
Institutionalize HR analytics. Really embed data use. Move beyond just reporting what happened. Use data for prediction, for making decisions. Turn data into intelligence.
Make data fundamental. What's 4?
Drive culture as a business accelerator. Be intentional about it. Use rituals, symbols, stories. Shape the culture to drive the behaviors the strategy needs.
Actively shape it. Don't just let it happen. And the last step, number 5.
Equip HR itself as a leadership force. Train your own HR people. Give them skills in consulting, change management, digital literacy, business fluency. Make them credible strategic partners.
So invest in the HR team's own capabilities, too. That makes sense. You know, the document ends on a really interesting point about justification.
Yeah, it says too often HR teams get caught trying to prove their value, justify their existence.
Right. Like they're always defending their budget or headcount.
But real impact, it argues, doesn't come from just being noticed. It comes from being indispensable, essential to the business's core strategy and operations.
So the question HR should ask isn't just, how can we support the business?
No, it shifts to something more like, how do we create value that the business simply cannot do without? Much more proactive.
If you want a seat at the table, don't just ask for it.
Set the table, deliver the results that make business success possible. That earns the seat.
And it loops back to that takeaway quote, doesn't it?
It really does. HR is not about HR. It is about creating value for others. When HR serves the business serves the customer, and the customer serves our future.
That sums it up perfectly, a really fundamental shift.
It is.
So for everyone listening, maybe take a moment to think about the HR function where you are. How is value measured right now? Is it more inside out or outside in? What steps could your organization or your HR team take towards this more impact-focused approach? How can HR truly help set the table for success and become, well, indispensable, something to think about? Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Thank you, viewers, for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with your colleagues. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking that subscribe button below so you never miss out on valuable insights. I'm Brian Edmonds, signing off. See you in the next one.